My dog is driving me crazy. He ate my dinner, dragged a dead rat to my bed at midnight, and turned my house into a battlefield. Each time he did something wrong, he would wag his tail proudly as if to say, "Look what I did for you." But he wasn't always like this. The first time I saw him was on a freezing winter night. Dirty and thin, he sat shivering on my doorstep, and so bare you couldn't even tell his breed. I tossed him some leftovers, hoping he'd leave, but he didn't. Every day, he waited outside, following me wherever I went. I wasn't a dog person and didn't want the trouble, so I always shut the door on him. One morning, he lay there, barely breathing. Worried, I took him to the vet. They said his skin disease and malnutrition were killing him. Treating him wasn't cheap, but I couldn't turn my back on a life. A month later, he was discharged. I let him in for his better recovery. 3 months later, his fur grew back. You wouldn't believe it was the same dog. But my life? It had turned into complete chaos. I still wasn't ready to have a dog and just wanted my peace back. So I decided to find him a new home. But every time someone came, he'd pull a ridiculous stunt, bark nonstop, or wreck something. In the end, no one wanted a troublemaker. But then something unexpected happened. That hot afternoon, I felt unwell and collapsed. When I woke up, I was in the hospital. My neighbor told me he was the hero. He barked and pawed at their door until they followed him to me. Without him, I wouldn't be here. After recovering, I went home alone. But there he was, wagging his tail at the door. In that moment, I realized I needed him. He wasn't just a stray. He was my friend and my family, a gift from God. I started training him, and he began to understand me. He learned my rules, and for the first time since my wife left, my house felt alive again. Just when I thought happiness would last, he stopped being playful, and even his favorite food couldn't excite him. I took him back to the vet. The news shocked me. He had late-stage bone cancer, and it was too late to do anything. I brought him home, believing he'd love to be. A few days later, as if by magic, he seemed better, wagging his tail as he stared out the window. Guessing he wanted to go outside, I took him on one last camping trip. We ran on the grass, played in the stream, and lay by the fire. For a moment, he was just a happy, carefree dog. But the next morning, he was gone. I shouted his name until my voice cracked, then searched everywhere, through the woods, by the lake, on every trail we'd walked together. I left the door open every night, but he never turned up. They say dogs leave when they know it's time. I didn't want to believe it, but deep down, I knew. Then one morning, I opened my eyes.